1 starter, and do you have a Game 2 starter yet?
I think it was easy in the sense of, when he was lined up, his start days and all that stuff, and I didn't feel good about him pitching out of the pen. So kind of, not by default, but it just made the most sense. And we're still talking about Game 2, Game 3, trying to figure out, we have a lot of good options, but right now, anything's on the table for Game 2.
Is there anything new on Vesia?
It's a side intercostal situation. He feels good. I don't know what he's going to do today, so I would say that it's highly unlikely that he's active for this next series, but we'll see.
Are there any other changes you're kind of anticipating along with that?
We'll kind of, I want to kind of see how the guys, mainly Rojas, how he moves around today. I think on the pitching side, obviously, if Alex is not on the roster, we're going to have to make a decision. But I think that's about it right now.
Jack, the second row.
Is Tony somebody who's an option for you guys, especially if you need more length in a longer series like this?
I don't think Tony's an option. He possibly could be. He's here. So he's on the table. So I will kind of digress. He's an option. We've got some other guys, obviously, that we've had, but Tony's an option. He's in there.
And if you stick with Yama's schedule, I think that means he'd only be able to go 1 time in the series. Is that what you guys are kind of anticipating at that point as you build the schedule?
Yeah, I just think that it's one of those things where with Yamamoto versus any other starter, their regular routine is their regular routine, and any deviation would be short rest. And so he hasn't done that. So I think, to your point, is like we'll probably keep him on track.
And then with Freddie, is the ankle progressed at all over the last week, or going into this series, is it the same thing where you guys got to read it out every day? And is it a spot where you might look for another day to give him a break if you can stack a couple off days or something like that?
My goal is, and I think Freddie would say the same thing, is to play in every game. Certainly we have a day after night game. He feels better today than he did yesterday, so I think that's encouraging. So I think, like, my message to him is let's not get too far ahead of things and let's worry about the day at hand. And so right now I feel very confident that he'll be in there tomorrow, and then we'll kind of see where that goes.
How much relief was there when he came in your office yesterday and said he was good to go?
I had a little smile on my face because certainly with where he's been, it's been dicey. So for him to give me the final thumbs up an hour before game time was very nice to see.
We'll come to Andy on the 4th row on the left here. Andy, we'll get you a mic coming from behind.
What's up, Dave?
Hi, Andy.
What have you thought of, or what have you seen from Shohei's at bats since Game 1?
Well, I'll tell you this: I don't know what it's like facing my childhood hero idol. Obviously, that's a better question for Shohei as far as the emotions behind that. I'm sure something might have bled into kind of, because he did chase more than he has. And so I don't know if it was the Darvish factor. So suffice to say, I'm happy that we've rid ourselves of you, Darvish, and we can sort of move forward. But I think that kind of, to your question, I think he's just been more outside the hitting zone than he has in the last, call it, 6 to 8 weeks.
And Kike, after the game, I don't know his exact words, he basically described it as a group of fellas who don't give a hoot about things. And I'm just wondering, like, with a team, right, like, how do you strike the balance between, in games like this, providing, having the necessary preparation, being, sort of locked in, and also playing free within the moment and embracing that?
I think that, well, I think the one part of it is, I did see the quote. So I think the one part of it is I do feel that our guys kind of can feel everyone picking everyone against us and us being sort of an afterthought. And I think we have a pretty good ball club. And so guys took it rightfully so personally. And so certainly Max and Kike voiced their thoughts. And so that's one part of it. And I think for us, it's like right now it's continue to have that edge that we had, because these guys are playing really good baseball. They've got a good thing going as well, and we can't let off the gas. And so I think we have a very talented team, but I still don't mind that kind of underdog fighter mentality.
Let's go to Bill, about 5 rows back in the middle.
Yeah, what would it take for Gonsolin to be on the NLCS roster?
Well, you know, Tony, if you look at kind of Tony's pitch mix experience, he makes sense. I think that, you know, it's a heavy right-handed team, but again, his pitch mix makes sense. He's a balanced pitcher. I think we've got to organizationally decide if it's worth putting him in stress and protect against downside, his future next year. So I think that's sort of weighing that with alternatives. And so, like I said, he's in the mix, but we've got to be very kind of convicted that he's the right decision if we are going to activate him.
And have Joe Kelly or Gratterall recovered enough that they're options?
They're not going to be options. Those two are not options.
Do you anticipate asking as much of your bullpen in this round as you did last round? Or we're going to see a bullpen game or two?
There's certainly a possibility for a bullpen game or two, but with that, we're going to have to ask innings from other guys. That's just the reality. So I don't think that in a 7-game series we have the luxury to kind of max out guys like we did from the pen in a 5-game series.
Go across the aisle to Eric.
Dave, I guess what the other person on the injured list who's eligible now, Brent Honeywell, how's he doing? Is he an option?
Brent is an option. He's been staying sharp in the sense because he's been pitching to our hitters on off days. He's still got this finger thing, but he's certainly in the mix too.
And he kind of serves, or whoever it is, like could serve a length role, like due to the the longer series, the middle 3, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so the length, the 2-3 innings, neutral, keep you in a ball game sort of thing makes sense, and that kind of fits, you know, what he's done for us.
With Rojas, if like I guess playing through what you're looking for from him, what would be the other options you have if he's not able to go?
I think the other options would probably be Kiermaier, James Outman, something like that.
Go to Clinton on the right side, 4th row.
Dave, a lot is made about the decisions, buttons pressed, guys being put in certain places between staff and so forth. I mean, but the number of scoreless innings you guys got out of that last series, I don't want to ask this in a certain way, but did that go as well as you thought, better? I mean, that was about, from a self-assessment standpoint, it's probably as good as it was going to get for the decisions being made.
It couldn't have went any better, and those guys really stepped up and just did everything and more than we could have hoped for. To shut that team out for 24 straight innings is near impossible, and we did it in fine fashion. And so, but to the question earlier is, you know, I just don't see that playing out again in a 7-game series. So I've got to lean on other guys to cover some innings, or you know, expecting a little bit more out of the starters. But what they did, I couldn't have hoped for any more.
Go to Russell, also on the 4th row.
Dave, you know, you and Carlos Mendoza have a lot of parallels in your first year in the big leagues. Both of you, as managers, both of you guys got to the NLCS. But I'm curious, when you manage in the big leagues or in the postseason for the first time, is there something that you don't expect that doesn't affect you in the regular season that when you get to the postseason, it's like, oh, this is something that you don't plan for?
Yeah, I think in the postseason, you know, looking back, things happen quickly. It's every game is, you know, obviously of the highest importance. The roles are different. Just trying to figure out what you can ask of a player, you know, whether it's multiples, you know, stress, leverage is different in the regular season versus the postseason. You know, I remember, obviously, in my first year, I remember bringing Clayton Kershaw in a game in relief, you know, and he was sort of ailing and feeling good, but not feeling good. So that was nerve-wracking for me. I remember walking the bases loaded to get to Montero who hadn't taken in a bat in 8 days, hits a 0-2 slider for a homer, and we got beat. So, but I think to your question is like just trying to think about a lot of different scenarios, and the game speeds up, and really having a lot of people around you to kind of help slow the game down and kind of think through a lot of different scenarios.
Dave will go straight back, just beyond the camera.
Hi, Dave. What's your impression of Kodai Senga, tomorrow's starter?
You know what? I just don't know Senga very much. I really don't. So I do know that his last outing was 2 innings, 31 pitches. So my assumption is they're going to try to get him through 3 innings. Obviously, he was probably their ace coming into the season. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't know him very well. I'm learning him right now.
Thank you.
2 more. We'll go to Mike on the right and finish with Barry.
Dave, do you have any more details on Gavin Stone's shoulder surgery?
I don't, DG. He had a shoulder surgery, successful, identified a lot of stuff that was going on in the shoulder. Don't see him coming back in 25.
With Vesia maybe out, how much more important does Anthony Banda become? And is there any other, do you want another left-hander in the pen? Is there some other option there?
You know, we have a couple options, you know, that we've had that are on the roster that are viable. It's really not a left-handed kind of heavy team, hitting team. But again, we still got to talk through it. But obviously, losing Alex potentially is brutal. It sucks. He's a big part of what we do. But yeah, we're just going to have to find somebody else to step up. Hey, Barry.
Doc, how are you?
Doing well, Barry.
So, a couple of quick questions. Coming off an emotional series from with the Padres, who you've seen often, how do you make the adjustment to now just try to lock in on the Mets, who you haven't really seen much of all year and in a while?
Well, I'll tell you this. We saw these guys earlier. They're a completely different team than we saw. They're playing considerably better. Lindor is back to being Frankie. They've just got a lot of confidence. And so we've got to play good baseball. So for me, I just don't see it much different outside of the fact that they're 2 different ball clubs, but we have to come with the same intensity, focus, and energy that we had this last series.
Do you think that the nature of the series and the nature of the way that Padres series kind of like transpired created that energy? I mean, and it's going to have to be recreated again.
I think we actually created it before the series. I really do. I don't think that was a result of winning the series. I think that we had that, you know, from pitch 1, game 1, and I expect it to kind of build from here.
And finally, on Yamamoto, would you be more comfortable running him out a little longer now? You know, last night, obviously, 68 pitches. He was pitching well. You said last night it was time to turn it over to your bullpen who'd been pitching well. But would you see going a 6th inning with him if he's pitching that well?
I would, yeah, I would. And I think that I just haven't, you know, Yoshi just hasn't been into the 6th inning, the 5th inning in quite some time. And then you're layering in on postseason high-intensity pitches. And then you've got guys behind them. So all that stuff played the factor in my decision-making. But yeah, going forward, and now he's kind of checked that box. And if he continues to throw the ball the way he did, certainly I would keep extending him.
Okay, thanks, Doc.
Thanks, Doc. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, guys.